Okay, again, this is basically threat modeling with OWASP Threat Dragon, open source threat modeling tool from OWASP Foundation. What we're going to do is basically, I'm going to show you how to create a simple stride threat model for a financial banking app. Okay, let me now jump from this Chrome tab to the Dragon. Here we go. And yeah, well, first, sorry, I almost forgot. Everyone familiar with the stride threat model by chance? I do have a quick tutorial slide on that.
Yeah, just do a quick, because I've heard of it, but I don't remember the details.
It's basically your 5 points: spoofing, tampering, reputation, information disclosure, denial of service, and elevation of privileges. And I have lost the screen. 1 minute. Again, it's basically your 5 major threat. Here's your stride threat model list. You have 5 key categories: spoofing, tampering, reputation, information disclosure, denial of service, and elevation of privileges. Spoofing, again, threat action aimed at accessing and using another user's credentials, such as their username, password, and the security control going off the CIA triad. This will be authentication. Tampering, the threat action intended to maliciously change or modify persistent data, such as a database. Again, like I said, for example, for banking example, increasing one's account balance. That can be considered tampering. And like I said, the alteration of data in transit between 2 computers, alteration data in play on the rest, doesn't matter. Yeah. Now, reputation, the threat action aimed at performing prohibited actions in a system that lacks ability to trace their operators. Someone trying to do stuff under the table, unlogged, unaudited. Again, that CI triad non-reputation. And of course, for tampering, going back to that one, CI triad category integrity. You want data to be accurate, not maliciously tampered with. And as going back to the bank example, you don't want your users to maliciously or modify their account balance, for example. Now, information disclosure, the threat action intending to read a file that when it's not granted access to, they don't have permission to read or read data in transit that they shouldn't be reading in transit, honestly. And that's, again, CI triad confidentiality. And then you have denial of service, basically bringing a service down so that users can't use it. It's just it. A threat action attempting to deny access to valid users, such as making a web server temporarily unavailable or usable. CI triad security control be availability as a service, again, not available. Then elevation of privilege, final one. The threat action intending to gain privileged access to resources in order to gain unauthorized access to information or compromised system. And that's, again, authorization of the CIA triad security control. This is all, again, taken from the OWASP website. Yeah. Now, again, I know a few people struggled in. If anyone use Stride at work for threat modeling? Just a quick poll. If anyone has any questions, we can then jump into the actually using Threat Dragon for doing a stride model. Again, as mentioned, for those who just joined, this is using going off a simple banking app. Let me present something else. Oh, Threat Dragon. Okay. Okay, so here is Threat Dragon, open source. You can download for free from the OWASP website. I'll post the link in the meetup. So Michael. So what we're going to do is, if anyone wants to follow along, feel free to. You just can easily just Google OWASP Threat Dragon. You'll find OWASP website. And from releases, you can then download whichever version for the operating system we're using. But here, let's start with our simple banking app. Sure. Okay. And again, what we're going to do is just your simple online banking app. So give it our project a title. Owner. Anyone else go with Josh. And for this, again, a bank that is developing a new online. Your description describes basically what threat model is going to be working with. So banks developing a new line application. And the threat model is to can go with basically threats for this. For the bank. Okay. Contributor. Could be like said. Positions such as, again, cybersecurity engineer or architect. Sorry about the thing I can't probably type today. Yeah. We can just, and then finally, like I said, just save. We'll call this bank model. Bank stride. I can do an open model. I know this is kind of redundant. Boy, I have to go back and do, after you create the description for it, then you have to do file open after you save it, but that's just a UI bugaboo with this. So yeah, we have that. Now we can, again, edit. Now I can add our diagram. What we're going to do is a bank stride diagram. Now this picture-in-picture thing is, even though you don't see it on your end, I still do, and it's getting annoying on mine. So we have our stride created. Then again, you have to keep going back. This is really, is it annoying? But there's that. And now let's create our basic cases. So with this, you have your processes, your stores, actors. Actors will be, for example, a user. Store will be a database, authentication service. Process it will be, for example, your web application or web server. What we're going to do now is create 3 actors, one for being a standard website dev, a webmaster, then another one will be your standard user or non-customer visitor. Then, as you can see, get the idea from next. We'll have, can of course resize these. Our actual customer. And you can describe them. So webmaster, this will be admin who handles public web interface. And our non-customer visitor will be basically anyone who simply visits public web pages. Sorry, a better way to describe it would be a visitor. Sorry, a little confusion there. Because in this case, they may or may not be a customer. Customer at the bank. So yeah, we have customer and authenticated. Basically customer. Or the user who has an account at the bank. Bank to make transactions. Another thing, though it does highlight for spell issues, it doesn't really have spell checking. But yeah. So we have our 3 actors set up, the webmaster, visitor, and customer. Now we can create some processes, which will be one for our public website. This will be the authentication backend. Then finally, transactions. Transaction service. We'll just call transactions. These are our processes, as I can see. In other case, I can simply view them as like I said, if you're using microservice architecture, you have your transactions service, authentication service, and of course a public website, or that would be public Nginx or Apache for static web pages. And now we can add our storage. And here, this will be, again, public web pages. Here's our authentication database, which then finally our transaction database. Any questions so far? And I ideally give you some time if anyone is trying to follow along. I don't know. If you are, just let me know. Can you still hear me? Got it quiet.
Yeah, I mean, this is all pretty straightforward so far, I think.
Yeah, it is. It's, again, just one of the simpler elementary ones. It's a very simple tool to use. So next we're going to do our data flows, which our webmaster will be able to do a code edit. Or this is basically Draw.io to a good extent. And you can use Draw.io for this. This is more specialized. And also, once you get to the very end, I can show you, it can generate a simple report. Unlike Draw.io, but yeah, because this, and do this one. But yeah, how it works basically with this drag and drop model, basically it takes it from Draw.io. But like I said, you have these properties, and later we'll get into the threats. So we have code edit, confirmation. Then I know getting the lock in place with this is a challenge at times. And of course it does also, like Draw.io, get kind of wonky at times. So it would be requests. There we go, response back. Get this to actually lock in place. It'd be nice. Maybe. Not. Again, like I said, it does act up like Draw.io too. But it is, again, the big thing is it's more specialized. As you can see, it gives you labeling. So now we're going to go to your HTTP request back. And finally, of course, with HTTP request, you're going to have HTTP response. Let's try this again. But usually is the best approach if you can get it lined up with the endpoint. That way it actually gets the flow arrows correct. And of course you can drag these around to the point where you can, as you can see, they don't overlap each other as much. Now we're going to go with this will be our credential. And as mentioned, start with the object. This will be our set status customer. Now again, verification from the database. Almost done with it. Again, this will show up. So again, very as simple as tutorial. Now, confirmation. Then you have your web transaction request. Ideally, we can get these to connect better, but maybe. And we're going to have our web transaction response. And yeah, like I said, it can be as finicky as Shroud.io at times. Guess we're going to do the snake till we get something. Now our web transaction response. Finally, our DB transaction request. Then DB transaction response. Do a little cleanup. No idea where there's my arrow for that. Of course. Yeah, it's finicky as draw.io. Do like to use plant UML because it gets much more straight lines, but give me up some time. This is hopefully visible enough. It's not the cleanest. Again, sorry, because it's getting rushed. Usually if you have more time, you can again clean it down, adjusting it, but now we need to get our trust boundaries, which will be public web server boundary, then restricted, which will be pretty much the data side. So we can do that now. And this trust boundary. This will be our public web server. Then let's be acting up again. Just not act up as much. There we go. This will be our restricted network. Of course, you can. Let me see if I can. I'm trying to do right now is again to clean this up. So TV transaction requests. The name is restricted net boundary. Okay, so we have that. Now, again, continuing on. Now, this is where it actually differs from your standard draw.io. I should putting this together. We can actually specify threats. So new threat. This one will be user impersonation. In spoofing, open, you can set by priority, it's be high. And the threat, actors impersonate. Legitimate. Such as the website admin for customers. Gain unauthorized. If I get to spell today. Access. And of course, you can click apply. Now we can see we have a user impersonation threat saved. And since it's open threat for the webmaster specifically, it's highlighted because it needs to be resolved. Yep. We have a HTTP request. So we're going to create a threat type for it under tampering. This will be, and as well, could be a medium. Deckers manipulate HTTP requests. No, Shineki. Questions?
I was wondering if does the tool help you identify places to look for threats? Or does it just help you enumerate and illustrate them?
Primarily enumerate and illustrate, then generate. What's kind of useful is it does generate a report at the end, which I'll show. This is also more of, like I said, your tabletop activity. If, like I said, if anyone wanted to follow along, we can also do a simple tutorial. I can do it, like I said, a tabletop exercise. If we have time. Let's go back to let's categorize that one. Sorry, that would have been request manipulation. Again, tampering. These, as you can see, all these fall basically that you have tampering, information disclosure service, work from there. Then finally we have HTTP response. Let me like that one. Your threat type for it. Some tampering. The responses, yep. Some medium. Now we have HTTP response highlighted. Now web transaction response. This will be at the data exposure. And an information disclosure type, FI category. And it, again, sensitive data is intercepted or leak during transmission. to unauthorized parties. And we have our authentication database, which can be vulnerable to tampering. High threat. And regarding authentication, so yeah. That'll be data manipulation. Tampering height. You can see we have to make an error here. And the same one here. That'll be tampering height. Restore database, and in this case, this will be threat. If we want to delete a threat, in case we do an accident like that, we can just delete. And because we wanted to have that under, this is tampering with data, a database or data store. Now we have our thing set up. Now let's add our mitigations. So we're going to go user impersonation, that, add our mitigations, implement MFA, to verify user IDs. You can also use CAPTCHA, prevent automated attacks, and regularly cycle auth tokens. Now, once these are implemented, you can then go update it again to mitigated. But again, I'm going to keep it open so I can show the end reports what needs to be mitigated. Our HTTP request. Is that our put validation and output encoding. Use web AS. And of course, always follow secure coding practices. So we have our HTTP request. IHP response, some process. Some more mitigations. Use web application firewall. And follow secure coding practice. And of course, secure coding practices, think of as such as input validation, and output encoding. Now our web transaction response. Go to this one. Add our mitigation, so we'll be using encrypt data and transit. Avoid. Yeah. Our authentication database. Encrypt data at rest. Employ integrity checks. Detect tampering. And restrict to authorized only. Now we have all the mitigations listed. Let's do a save. So bank stride, mitigations. Now we're going to open the model again. Now we can save, and then option 2. Of course, where is that? There we go. Report there. Sorry, it was right under my little picture-in-picture. Now we have the report. Because we have a list of threats. What happened here? I have no idea. Actually open it. See what happened. We have mitigations. As you can tell, this is not my favorite kind of tool. We seem to have lost half the threat model. And all our mitigation, we lost those. That's why I do recommend saving as often as we can. Another tool that I'm going to be looking into is the Microsoft Thermali tool. Sorry, I'll get this picture-in-picture thing in the way again. We lost it. But yeah, usually we will see again. This with all the negations. Matter of fact, I did this earlier. Well, give me a minute. We can jump to another machine. Here's the generated report that should have came out based off of what I did earlier today. Just going through this again. And as you could see, export the report as a PDF.
We're not seeing your screen.
You're not? Can you see the screen now?
Yep.
Okay, here we go. Okay, the online bank model threat report. Again, this is what, again, my original one through that went successful. That generated a PDF report. As you can see, you have a summary of the reports, threats. So total threats, which we entered in, were 5. Mitigated, we didn't mitigate any of them yet, so it's 0. Okay, let's go back and mitigate. Not mitigated, still, yeah. And the priority, so 3 high priority, 2 medium priority. And stride diagram. Into website dev, visitor, customer. And of course, you have the list of the threats. So your user impersonation, limit users to gain access, authorized access, and mitigations that can be implemented. So all these are again put into a nice demoed PDF report that you can use to further improve your application or service. Any questions?
How do you run this? Is this something you can launch as a Docker container or on Kubernetes easily?
This is your standard desktop application. Let me jump back to my other machine.
Oh, so there's not a server portion to this.
There isn't, no. Let me go back and share again. No, it's again a standard desktop application. Can go off of, let me pull up the web page. There's the main web page. Let me share that 1 minute. go under releases. I'm using version 2.5, go under to GitHub, and then you can download it for your system here. Now there is, I haven't tried the Docker image of this yet, but it does exist. But since this is, again, a GUI-based Windows utility, or Windows GUI-based utilities, it could be be fun.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the Docker image would be.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, I haven't tried it, so yeah. So again, next would be to, again, any final questions? Just about time. If not, again, thank you for coming. And again, as I mentioned before, if anyone has anything they want to present, just let me know. Yeah.
Thanks, Joshua.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Thanks.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. Yes, you have a raised hand.
No, sorry, by mistake. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.